The live studio audience at the Kelly Clarkson show barely had time to settle when Prince Harry strode onto the stage, all subtle swagger beneath a tailored navy blazer and a warm, controlled smile that suggested charm and approachability, but beneath the surface, both he and Kelly sensed the veneer of familiarity would wear off once the cameras rolled and the questions deepened. As Kelly opened with light banter, asking about royal life in California, the children, the couple's philanthropy, the atmosphere shimmered with goodwill, yet there was already an edge to her tone, a purposeful warmth laced with curiosity, and Harry, at first relaxed, responded with practiced grace, joking about homeschooling and garden projects, before Kelly pivoted to ask, gently but pointedly, about the hospital privatization controversy he'd weighed in on recently, asking why he'd used his platform to influence UK policy while living in America. And at that moment the smiles flickered, the audience leaned forward, and a subtle tension took hold, as Harry's tone shifted from relaxed to defensive, planting his feet, replying that it wasn't policy meddling but advocacy for universal healthcare, adding that every voice matters when lives are at stake. Kelly then pressed him further, softer now, but persistent, conversation turning to his memoir's revelations about racism in the royal family, specifically whether he had proof of those comments or was relying on memory and interpretation, and Harry's expression hardened, a tightening around his eyes and lips that Kelly caught and seized upon, reframing the question. When you share these stories, when the world listens, what responsibility do you feel in naming specifics? And Harry, visibly braced, answered that naming individuals could damage lives and invite reprisals, and that confidentiality was as vital as transparency. But Kelly, leaning forward, tapped her notes and followed. But if unnamed individuals hurt your child, wouldn't it be kinder to clarify, even without names, to protect others from silence? The crowd held their breath, Harry's jaw clenched. He looked straight ahead and said, voice low but firm, I will protect my family, publicly or privately, but I will not name names for spectacle. Kelly nodded, then pressed, so accountability means silence. His pause lasted for a heartbeat too long. Then he rose, lifting his blazer, releasing his microphone cable with a snap that resonated like finality, saying, I came here to have a meaningful conversation. Not to be cornered into naming names under pressure. With that he turned, walked with measured stride off stage, jacket swinging, leaving the audience and Kelly in stunned hush as applause faded into disbelief, the camera lingering on Kelly's open expression before abruptly switching to black and launching into an unplanned commercial. Social platforms ignited within seconds. Hashtag Harry walks off. Hashtag Kelly calls out. Hashtag Royal Clash trending globally as videos were clipped and shared by millions. The 2-minute viral moment dissected by pundits, late-night hosts, royal experts and everyday people alike, some commending Harry for drawing a boundary, others criticizing him for refusing to clarify serious allegations, framing it as either stoic self-preservation or evasive silence. The minefields expanded, Twitter storms, TikTok breakdowns, Instagram debates, all asking whether royals should be immune from naming accusers, whether talk show hosts should test public figures on unspoken broken trust, and where the line between protecting privacy and evading accountability lies in an internet age obsessed with truth and transparency. Meanwhile, palace insiders reportedly circled the wagons, consulting with Prince William's team on media strategy, while in Montecito, Meghan found solace in close-knit private support, urging Harry to step back, and Kelly's producers issued a statement calling the episode an honest exchange, yet regretting that civility gave way to conflict so quickly. As the news cycle swept forward, Kelly taped a follow-up monologue stating, the hardest conversations aren't the ones scripted, they're the ones that unravel truths we're not sure we're ready to hear, a rare moment of reflection that divided viewers, some thanking her for bravely pursuing clarity, others accusing her of turning a talk show into a confrontation chamber. At the same time, Harry's spokesperson released a brief message, Prince Harry respects questions that matter, and the platforms that ask them. But he won't be cornered into naming unnamed pain when the cost is too high. And with that, both figures receded from the limelight temporarily, introspection and debate taking their place, talk show formats shifted in tone, guests became more wary or more emboldened on future shows, and the public, watching the echo of footsteps off a stage, realized that empathy and transparency may no longer coexist comfortably in a room built for applause. and as the cameras quieted, the conversation roared louder than both voices ever did. In the days following Prince Harry's unanticipated departure from the Kelly Clarkson show, the atmosphere in both media and royal circles grew electric, charged with speculation, judgment, and quiet contemplation as both supporters and critics scrambled to interpret the meaning behind Harry's abrupt walk-off. Some calling it a principled boundary, others framing it as calculated evasion. But the truth, as often happens in moments of viral intensity, was more nuanced, and as Harry retreated from the public spotlight, choosing silence over statement, the world filled the void with noise. Tabloids splashed headlines claiming, "Harry's American meltdown," while others applauded his calm restraint in the face of a host unafraid to push back, and within 24 hours, analysts dissected his every gesture, the way he had clutched his hands, the controlled tone he used before rising, even the angle of his retreat off stage, interpreting them as either royal poise under fire or a sign that even self-exiled royalty cannot fully escape the burden of unresolved legacy. Behind closed doors, sources close to Meghan reportedly expressed support, with one friend telling a journalist off the record that Harry knew what kind of platform he was stepping onto, but no one anticipates being forced to defend their pain like it's on trial, a sentiment echoed by others who felt the daytime format, known for feel-good segments, may have been too sharp a setting for such a complex and emotionally loaded conversation. Meanwhile, Kelly's camp stayed mostly silent except for a single Instagram story where she shared a quote, "Truth doesn't mind being questioned. Lies do," which many saw as a subtle but unmistakable reference to the clash, sparking fresh waves of comment threads and micro-discussions across every platform. The show's ratings spiked, clips of the incident circulating across TikTok and YouTube with millions of views in hours, and viewers debated whether the moment had elevated the standard of daytime journalism or betrayed the trust of a guest seeking safe discussion. And as the audience polarized, public figures cautiously weighed in. Journalists praised Kelly's willingness to challenge, while therapists and trauma advocates issued reminders that healing isn't always articulate under pressure. Amid this storm, Harry broke his silence in an unexpected forum, not through a press release or formal interview, but in a recorded message during a charity event supporting mental health for veterans, where, without directly naming the talk show or Kelly, he spoke about how, sometimes, the most important part of healing is knowing when to leave a conversation that doesn't see your full story. And this line, spoken softly, from a dark paneled room, resonated far beyond its modest delivery, giving voice to those who felt similarly unseen, unheard, or prematurely judged. Kelly, too, seemed to evolve in response, opening her next week's show with a brief statement acknowledging that public conversations can become unexpectedly raw, and that while she stands by her right to ask questions, she also recognized that not every room is the right place for every truth, earning both applause and respectful nods from critics. The network, sensing the cultural weight of what had occurred, reframed the episode's promotional cycle, labeling it a transformative moment in broadcast conversation, and producers began incorporating post-interview therapy briefings for guests tackling emotionally fraught subjects, citing the Harry exchange as a pivotal turning point. In the broader cultural current, think pieces began to surface discussing the evolution of celebrity interviews, from promotional fluff to emotional trial, and whether audiences expected too much emotional access from public figures who, despite privilege, still bleed when prodded. As for Harry, he and Meghan announced a brief pause in appearances, focusing instead on behind-the-scenes work with Archewell and personal time with their children, and though they remained largely silent on the specifics of the incident, a subtle shift in their messaging took hold. Fewer statements about their own trauma, more amplification of other voices. And thus, what began as a single moment of friction on a couch between two public figures became a larger conversation about the nature of disclosure, the fine line between inquiry and intrusion, and the growing realization that even in a world obsessed with authenticity, dignity sometimes chooses the quiet exit over the loud explanation.